The Law of 3 Days. The red sun was setting over the rocky hills of planet Viridian 6. The air was dry, full of dust and silence. In a small corner of the colony, Sirali stood outside her metal hut. Her eyes were swollen. Her body was shaking. She had buried her husband only 2 hours ago. The village priest had said the words quickly. There was no one else at the funeral. Only Sirali, her little daughter, and the law officer standing nearby with a timer. 3 days, the officer said coldly, showing her the screen on his wrist. You must marry within 72, standard hours. If not, the state will take you. Sirali didn't answer. She only nodded, holding her daughter close. The child didn't speak, not since the sickness took her father. The Galactic marriage law had been clear for years. Any widow must remarry within 3 days. If she didn't, she would be sent to the state housing farms, places full of cold rooms, hard work, and no love. Her daughter would be placed in state care too. Sirali couldn't let that happen. That night, Sirali went to the village market. Her people looked away when they saw her. They whispered, "Poor widow." But none stepped forward to help. No male from her own kind wanted a wife with a child, and certainly not a grieving one. She stood near the old water pump, heart pounding, eyes scanning. She had no dowry, no property, no strength left to beg. But then she saw him. The human, tall, quiet, always fixing machines at the edge of the colony. His name was Jack. He lived alone in a shipping container turned home. People said he liked being alone. But Sirali remembered once seeing him help an old alien woman carry a basket. He had a kind face, kind eyes. She walked toward him slowly. Jack was kneeling, fixing a broken fuel pipe with oil on his hands. He didn't look up when she approached. Sirali stood still for a moment. Her voice came out soft and trembling. "I lost my husband," she said. "Today?" Jack paused. He looked up at her confused, then stood. "I'm sorry," he said. "Can I help?" She looked down. Her hands shook. She held her daughter's small hand tightly. "I don't have time," she whispered. "I must marry before the law takes me away." Jack's eyes widened. He had heard of the law. He hated it, but it wasn't his world. He was just a worker here. "I have no one," Sirali said. "No family, no friends, no food." Jack looked at her closely now. He saw the tiredness in her eyes, the thinness of her arms, the way her daughter hid behind her, frightened of everything. "I don't need a lover," Sirali added quickly. "I don't want your bed, I just want to live. I want my daughter to stay with me." She looked up at him, desperate. "If you marry me, I'll warm your bed, I'll cook, I'll clean, I'll be quiet." Jack didn't answer. His heart was pounding. He was not a hero. He had come to this planet to escape pain. But this woman, she was standing in front of him like a ghost from his past. He remembered his own wife, lost in an accident back on Earth. He had run away from memories. But now, a new one stood in front of him, asking for help. "Why me?" Jack asked softly. "Because you're kind," Sirali said. "You are the only one who looked at me with mercy." She was not wrong. Others had turned their backs, but Jack had listened. Jack looked down at the child. Her eyes were big and scared. She didn't say a word, just hugged her mother tightly. "I'm sorry," Jack whispered. "I need to think." He turned and walked back toward his container home. He didn't slam the door, but it closed softly behind him. Sirali stood in the darkness, breathing fast. She had only 3 days. Now it was 2.5. Inside his room, Jack couldn't sleep. He paced. He looked at the stars through the small window. He thought of how lonely Sirali had looked. He thought of the little girl. "I can't save everyone," he said to himself. "But maybe just this once." He sat down, head in hands. He had come to this planet to forget. Now fate was asking him to remember how to care again. Outside, Under the stars, Sirali sat with her child. She had nothing left but hope. And the timer on the officer's wrist, it was still ticking. Jack didn't open his door the next morning. Sirali stood outside in the cold wind, her arms wrapped tightly around her daughter. The girl trembled, in silence, and her stomach growled. They hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. Sirali didn't blame Jack. He was a human. This wasn't his law. He didn't owe her anything. Still, she waited, because she had no other choice. When the door finally creaked open, Jack stepped out slowly. He looked tired, as if sleep had never come. In his hand, he held a steaming metal cup. Without a word, he handed it to Sirali. She took it carefully. It was hot broth. Simple, but warm. "For the child," he said. Sirali bent down and fed the drink to her daughter slowly. The girl sipped quietly, her eyes wide and watchful. She didn't speak, but her lips curled into the tiniest smile. Jack watched in silence. Then, without meeting her eyes, he said, "Come in, just for a minute." Inside the container home, it was warm and clean. Not much inside, just a bed, a heater, tools, and a small food unit. But it felt safer than the open world outside. Sirali sat with her daughter near the corner. Jack stood near the door, rubbing his hands. "I need to understand something," he finally said. "If I do this, what happens next?" "You become my legal mate," she answered quietly. "We share name, food, and home. You'll have no other duties." "No. Personal things?" he asked slowly, not knowing the right words. Sirali looked up. "Only if you want. I will not force you. This is not for desire, it is for survival." Jack nodded. His throat felt tight. The law didn't care about love, just contracts. And if I say no? Sirali didn't speak. Her face told him everything. The state would take her. Her child would go to strangers. She might never see her again. Jack sat down slowly. "I came here to fix machines," he said, "not lives." "I know," she said, "but you're the only one who listened." A sudden knock broke the silence. 3 sharp bangs. Jack stood and opened the door slightly. Outside stood a tall, alien male with sharp yellow eyes and dark skin. He looked strong, dangerous, and full of anger. "I know what she asked you," the alien growled. "You better say no." Jack frowned. "Who are you?" "Her late mate's cousin, next in line. The law says I can marry her if she's unclaimed." Jack looked back at Sirali. She was pale. Her hands were shaking. "I've seen how you treat your females," Jack said coldly. "She doesn't want you. She doesn't get to want anything." The alien spat. "Not anymore. You think you're protecting her human? You'll regret it." Jack stepped outside, closing the door behind him. "I said no," he growled. "You don't scare me." The alien hissed and walked away, muttering threats. Back inside, Sirali's eyes were wet. "He will not stop," she whispered. "He only wants me to raise his status." "He won't touch you," Jack said firmly. "Not while I'm here." He sat down again, this time closer to her. "You said you don't need love," he said. "But what do you need from me, truly?" She looked into his eyes, searching for cruelty, mockery, but found none. "I need safety, food, a roof, a way to keep my daughter beside me. I will cook, clean, and never cause trouble. I will never shame you." Jack sighed. "What happens if we get caught faking it? They take me, punish you, fine you." He rubbed his forehead. Everything in his life had been quiet. Now this. "I don't know how to be a husband," Jack said. "I don't know how to be a widow," she replied. They both smiled, just a little. Hours passed. Jack let them rest on the floor mat while he worked quietly. The girl finally fell asleep with a blanket over her. Sirali sat still, her back straight, respectful. "You don't have to sit like a statue," Jack said. "I'm showing thanks," she replied. Jack walked over, sat beside her. "Don't thank me yet," he said. "I haven't said yes." She lowered her head. I understand. But I also haven't said no. She looked up again. This time her eyes were full of silent hope. I don't believe in this law, Jack continued. But I believe in doing what's right, and letting you be taken. That doesn't feel right. He stood and looked out the window. You have until tomorrow evening, he said. If no one stops you, we'll go to the registry. Sarah Haley's breath caught. Are you sure? She asked. No, he said with a tired smile. But I've got food, space, and no one to stop me. She stood slowly, bowed her head once more. Then I'll be your wife, she whispered. Even if only in name, I'll never shame it. Jack looked at her, then at the sleeping child. Get some rest, he said. Tomorrow we prepare for a fake wedding. Outside, the red sun fell below the hills. In the shadows, sharp yellow eyes watched the container home, waiting for a chance to strike. Morning arrived with a pale sky and heavy clouds. Jack opened his eyes to soft breathing nearby. On the floor, wrapped in a thin blanket, Sirali and her daughter lay quietly. The little girl had curled up close to her mother, arms wrapped tightly around her waist. Jack stood up carefully and walked to the food unit. He made a warm drink and placed a small bowl of rehydrated grains on the table. The girl's eyes opened slowly. She didn't speak, but she stared at him. He smiled and pushed the bowl closer. For you, he said gently. She sat up and looked at her mother for approval. Sirali gave a small nod, then watched as the child ate with quiet hunger. Not fast but grateful. Every bite mattered. What's her name? Jack asked softly. Lyra, Sirali replied. She hasn't spoken since her father died. Jack frowned. Not even to you? Not even once. He glanced at the girl again. Her eyes were too old for someone so small, like she had seen more pain than a child should ever see. Later that day, they went to the village office to collect the marriage forms. The building was made of thick metal, guarded by 2 officers. Everyone inside stopped to stare when Sarah Haley walked in with the human. A few whispered, one scoffed. Jack stood taller. The clerk handed over a thin tablet. You must complete this before the deadline, she said coldly. The law requires a signed witness. We'll manage, Jack replied. But as they turned to leave, a familiar voice growled behind them. Well, well. Look who's pretending to play house. It was the rival, Sirali's late husband's cousin. He walked closer, his heavy boots thudding against the floor. His face was full of hate. He didn't care about Sirali. He only cared about winning. Do you even know how to be a husband, human? He sneered. She needs strength, not a pet. Jack's jaw tightened. Sirali reached for his hand, not to hold it, but to keep him calm. Jack didn't speak. He didn't fight. He simply led her and Lyra out. They walked back in silence. But as they reached the home, something happened. Lyra tugged at Jack's sleeve. Just once. He turned. She looked up at him, then down at the ground. She held out a small cloth flower, dirty, torn, handmade. Jack blinked. You want me to have this? He asked. The girl nodded once. Jack took it gently. Thank you, Lyra. Sirahali's hand flew to her mouth. That's the first time she gave anything to someone since he passed. Jack smiled. Maybe she's starting to trust me. That night, while Sirahali prepared dinner, Jack sat with Lyra on the floor. She didn't talk, but she didn't run from him either. She even let him fix the torn cloth on her tiny doll. You know, he said to her, when I was your size, I had a toy too. It was a robot that made beeping noises, drove my mom crazy. Lyra tilted her head. Her lips twitched, almost a smile. Sirahali watched from the corner. Her heart felt full and scared at the same time. Later, Sirahali sat beside Jack. Why are you doing this? She asked softly. Jack leaned back against the wall. I don't know. Maybe I'm tired of turning away. Maybe I'm just lonely too. She looked at him. Then at Lyra sleeping with her doll close to her chest. "You're helping more than you know," she said. "She's smiling again. That means more to me than any law." Jack looked at Sarah Haley. In that moment, he didn't see a desperate widow. He saw a mother fighting for her child. Brave. Quiet. Stronger than she knew. He gave her a small smile. "We'll get through this." But outside, someone else was watching. The rival stood in the dark, eyes glowing with anger. His hands clenched as he whispered into his wrist device, "They're faking it. I want a challenge filed tomorrow. I'll break him in front of the whole colony." The next morning, a loud knock shook Jack's door. An officer stood there with a metal scroll. "Formal challenge," the officer said. "You've been accused of unlawful marriage preparation. A combat trial has been requested by the rival claimant. If you refuse, the marriage is void." Jack stared at the paper. Combat. He wants a physical test. Or mental. You can choose. But it must be public. And it must be tomorrow. Jack shut the door slowly. Sarah Holly looked at him, her face pale. "What did they say?" Jack turned to her. "I've been challenged, and if I lose, the law says I'm not fit to marry you." Sarah Holly's knees weakened. "He's going to destroy you." Jack looked at her, then at Lyra. "Then I better make sure I win." The sun hadn't risen yet, but Jack was already awake. He sat on the edge of his metal bed, staring at the challenge notice again. His hands were tight fists. A fight. That's what the rival wanted. Outside, the colony was quiet, but tension was building. People whispered. Everyone loved a good challenge, especially when a human was involved. Inside the container, Sirahli paced back and forth. Her hands trembled. Lyra sat quietly in the corner, hugging her doll. She knew something was wrong, even if she didn't speak. Sirahli finally stopped and looked at Jack. "You don't have to do this," she said softly. "If you walk away now, they won't hurt you." "But they'll take you," Jack replied. She looked down, ashamed. "I'm not worth it." Jack stood. "Yes, you are. And so is your daughter." They walked to the village square together. Crowds had already gathered. A big circle was drawn on the ground, ancient custom for a trial. The rival Drogash was already there. He stood tall, covered in armor-like plates, his thick arms crossed over his chest. The judge, an old alien woman, stepped forward. "You may choose the trial," she said. "Physical combat or mental skill." Jack looked around. People were betting, laughing, watching like it was a game. His stomach twisted. He looked at Drogash. The alien was strong, too strong. Then he looked at Sirali. And Lyra. Jack took a deep breath. Mental trial. The crowd groaned in disappointment. Drogash smirked. Coward's choice. Jack ignored him. 2 chairs were placed in the center. Between them, a hologram cube floated. The judge sat nearby. "This is a test of logic, memory, and truth," she said. "First to fail, 3 times loses." Jack sat down. He felt everyone's eyes on him. Drogash sat across, his yellow eyes locked on Jack's face. The cube blinked. "First question, identify the missing pattern in this sequence." The numbers flashed. Jack blinked, thought quickly, and answered, "Correct." Drogash answered next, "Correct." Back and forth it went. Math, logic, history. Jack held his ground. He focused hard. He had fixed machines, solved problems all his life. This wasn't new. Drogash struggled. By round 7, Drogash made his first mistake. By round 9, he made another. Round 10 came. Final question. What does the law define as a valid bond? Drogash hesitated. Bloodline approval and combat challenge. The cube buzzed. Red. Incorrect. The judge stood. Correct answer. Consent of both parties witnessed and registered. She turned to Jack. Victory. Human wins. The crowd gasped. Some cheered. Others looked shocked. Jack stood, heart pounding. Drogash stood too, face burning with rage. This isn't over. He stormed away. Back at the container home, Sarah Holly poured water into a small cup, her hands still shaking. I thought you'd lose, she whispered. I thought I'd lose everything. Jack sat on the floor, tired but smiling. You're stuck with me now, he joked. Lyra walked up to him, holding her doll. She offered it to him again, then leaned forward and pressed her forehead to his arm. Jack froze. She's thanking you, Sirali said. Her voice cracked. That's how our kind shows respect to someone we trust. Jack gently patted the girl's head. She's braver than I am. Later that night, Sirali prepared a small meal. It wasn't much, just warm roots and grain, but it felt like a feast after the stress of the day. Jack sat across from her. You don't have to do this alone anymore, he said. I know, she whispered, but I don't want to be a burden. You're not. Silence fell between them, but it was a warm silence. She finally asked, Why did you come to this planet, Jack? He stared at the bowl in his hands. To run away. I lost someone. I couldn't stay on Earth anymore. Everything reminded me of her. Sirali nodded slowly. So we're both running. Yeah, Jack said. But maybe we stopped now. The next morning, Sirali dressed in a long robe. It was plain but clean. Jack wore his best shirt, one without oil stains. They walked hand in hand toward the registry office. People watched, some curious, some smiling, a few still angry, but no one stopped them. Inside, the clerk nodded. Do you both agree to this bond? Yes, Jack said. I do, Sirali replied. The clerk tapped the screen. Registered. That was it. No music, no cheers, just a legal stamp that said they belonged to each other now. On the way home, rain began to fall, a soft, cold mist from the upper atmosphere. Jack pulled his coat around Sirali and Lyra. They walked together under one piece of cloth, a small family, new and unsure but no longer alone. But far above, in a state surveillance drone, red lights blinked. A voice spoke in a cold tone. Continue monitoring. Marriage approved, but suspicion remains. The sky over Viridian 6 stayed gray for 2 days. Rain fell often, soft and steady, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. Inside Jack's small home, Sarah Hooley placed her daughter on the floor mat and covered her with a warm blanket. Lyra was sleeping peacefully, one arm around her repaired cloth doll. Jack stood near the window staring at the clouds. It's done, he said. We're married now. You're safe. Sarah Lee nodded. Yes, but not from everyone. She was right. The registry accepted their marriage. But some aliens didn't, especially Drogash. He had power, influence, and anger burning in his chest. Losing to a human had humiliated him, and Drogash wasn't done. The very next morning, Jack was woken by a loud noise. Bang, bang, bang. 3 armored guards stood outside. One held a scroll with a red seal. By order of Clan Chief Harkrell, the guard said, your union has been challenged again. Jack frowned. We already passed the trial. This is different, the guard replied. Clan law demands a public ceremony, a proof of bonding, or the registry seal will be revoked. Another challenge? Jack muttered. Sarah Lee stepped beside him. This time it's not a test of knowledge or combat. The guard added, it must be held in the gathering hall, with full witness, and the joining vow must be spoken aloud by both. Jack rubbed his face. When? Tonight. The gathering hall was a dome-shaped building in the center of the colony. Made of stone and steel, it held almost 200 beings. Word spread fast. By sundown, it was full. Aliens of all kinds filled the seats. Some were there to support. Others came just to watch the human fail. Jack stood near the front, sweating under the bright lights. He wore his only formal jacket, slightly too big, and cleaned boots. He'd never felt more out of place. Beside him, Sarah Holly wore a blue robe someone had lent her. Her hair was braided, her eyes steady, but her hands trembled behind her. Back da. Lyra sat with a kind elder near the front row. The child looked around nervously but stayed quiet. A large elder male stepped forward. Per clan law, this bond must now be sealed with public vows. Speak with truth. Speak with heart. If the bond is false, let the fire of silence expose it. Jack swallowed hard. He looked at Sairali. She nodded once, giving him strength. He took a step forward. I'm not from here, he said loudly. I'm human. I came to this planet to fix broken machines. I didn't expect to fix a family, the crowd murmured. But when I saw Sairali and her daughter, I knew I couldn't walk away. I didn't marry her for gain. I didn't marry her for comfort. I married her because no one else would stand beside her. He turned and faced her. I promised to protect you, to share my food, my roof, and my name. You are not my burden. You are my choice. Gasps filled the room. A few even clapped. Sairali stepped forward, voice quiet but clear. I was alone, lost. The law gave me 3 days to find safety, or lose everything. I had no dowry, no status, only my child, and hope. She looked at Jack. Jack didn't owe me anything, but he gave me shelter. He gave my daughter warmth. He gave me something I thought I would never have again, peace. Her hand stopped shaking. I promise to honor this bond. I will cook, clean, and care. Not out of duty, but out of respect, because now we are one. A warm silence filled the hall. The elder raised both hands. Witnessed, spoken, sealed. The hall echoed with a single word. Bound. Back at home, Jack removed his boots and collapsed onto the floor, exhausted. I hate speeches, he said. Sairali laughed softly for the first time. It was quiet, but real. Lyra laughed once, she said, before her father got sick. She hasn't done it since. Jack looked over at the child who was asleep again. She'll laugh again, he said. One day. Sairali nodded. So will I. Later that night, Sairali sat on the edge of Jack's bed, unsure. I can sleep on the floor, she said quickly. Or outside if you wish. Jack shook his head. No, there's room. He pulled over another blanket and laid it between them. No expectations, he said. Just warmth. She lay down slowly, nervous at first. But as the night grew colder, she shifted closer. Not in fear, not in need, but in trust. And for the first time in many nights, she closed her eyes without fear. Outside, beyond the walls, someone watched from the shadows. Drogash. His jaw was tight. His claws dug into the dirt. They think this is over, he growled, but I will make him regret touching her. It had been 6 days since the vow was spoken in the gathering hall. Rain still came and went, but inside Jack's home something was changing. Sairali no longer moved like a guest. She cleaned the small space in the mornings, cooked warm meals, and even found an old brush to sweep the dust. Lyra played near the heater, sometimes humming to herself. The silence in her eyes had softened. Jack watched them both and felt something grow in his chest. He didn't know what to call it, comfort, peace, maybe even family. But peace doesn't last long on Viridian 6. One morning, while fixing a water pipe near the colony edge, Jack heard his name. Human, someone called. They're watching you. Jack looked up. A young alien worker stepped closer. The state monitors your home. They think your marriage isn't real. Jack frowned. What do they want? Proof. One of the High Council inspectors is coming tomorrow. If they believe you faked the bond, Sairali will be taken. The child too. Jack's jaw tightened. Let them come. But inside, fear was already creeping in. That night, Jack told Sairali everything. She froze. Her face turned pale. I knew they wouldn't stop, she whispered. No one wants a widow to choose a human. Jack placed a hand on her shoulder. Then we show them the truth. But what if they don't believe us? She asked. We don't lie. We live, like we've been doing. That's the truth. Sairali looked at him. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with fire. "I never asked for more than protection," she said. "But you've given more than I can repay." Jack gave a tired smile. "You're not here to repay me. You're here to live." The next day, a long black hover car arrived. A tall female alien stepped out dressed in gold robes with glowing eyes that studied everything. Her name was Vetra, the marriage inspector. She entered Jack's home without greeting. Her eyes scanned every corner, every item, every detail. "Show me where you sleep," she ordered. Sirali led her to the bed. One blanket, two pillows. The space was small but lived in. "Who uses which side?" Vetra asked sharply. Sirali answered without pause. "He sleeps on the left. I sleep beside the wall. He snores." Jack turned red. "Hey." Vetra raised a brow. "Noted." She moved to the food unit, opened drawers, checked clothing. She picked up Lyra's doll. "Who repaired this?" "I did," Jack said. Vetra stared at him. "Why?" Jack hesitated, then said, "Because she gave it to me. She trusts me." The inspector didn't smile. She moved to Lyra, kneeling before her. "Do you speak, child?" Lyra looked down, silent. Vetra sighed. "I will return tomorrow for the final check." She stepped out and disappeared into the dark hover car. Jack exhaled slowly. "That was fun." Sirali laughed a little. "You handled it well." He shook his head. "I fixed her water heater last week. I didn't know I'd have to fix her heart, too." That night, Sirali brought him a bowl of hot soup and sat beside him. "I know this was meant to be just survival," she said. "A legal bond." Jack nodded slowly. "But now, it feels like more." He looked at her. "I was thinking the same." She smiled, soft and tired. "You didn't just save us from the law. You brought back something I thought I lost. My voice, my dignity." Jack leaned back. "And you gave me something too." "What?" "A reason to care again." They sat in silence, the warm light of the heater flickering over their faces. Then, slowly, Sirahali reached out and took his hand. The next morning, Vetra returned. This time, she brought 2 assistants and a scanner. "Final test," she said. "We scan for emotional energy. True bonds have warmth, false ones are cold." Jack stood beside Sirali as the scanner hovered near them. Lyra clutched her mother's robe tightly. The scanner beeped once, then again. A soft light glowed. "Green." "Emotional bond confirmed," one assistant said. Vetra narrowed her eyes. "Still, I am not convinced. The child has not spoken. Perhaps the connection is only surface level." She knelt again before Lyra. "Child, if this man is not your real family, I will take you now." Lyra looked up. Her small hands trembled. And then she spoke. "Please don't take my daddy." The room fell silent. Jack's heart skipped. Sirahali gasped, dropping to her knees and hugging her daughter tightly. Vetra stood slowly. Her voice was cold, but her eyes had softened. Bond confirmed. Investigation closed. She turned and left. Jack knelt beside them. "You spoke," he whispered. "Lyra, you spoke." The child nodded, her face buried in her mother's chest. "She's not afraid anymore," Sirali said softly. Jack touched the girl's hair. "Neither am I." Outside, far away, Drogash received the report. His eyes narrowed. "If they passed, then I must destroy them another way." He turned, his shadow stretching across the cold stone floor. The days after the inspection felt different. Sirahali no longer avoided Jack's eyes. She smiled more often now. Her movements became lighter, her steps softer. She laughed when Lyra finally sang a few notes to herself while playing with her. Doll Jack still worked at the colony's edge, repairing pipes and circuits. But each time he returned home, something waited for him. A warm meal, a clean home, and 2 faces that no longer looked lost. Still, one question remained in his heart. Was this real or just survival? One evening, the colony lights flickered. A short power failure darkened the streets. Jack returned late, boots heavy with mud. As he opened the door, he saw Sarah Hulley curled on the floor, arms around Lyra, shielding her from the dark. He switched on a small battery lamp. "It's okay, just a power surge." Sarali looked up and smiled. "We're used to the dark." "Well," Jack said softly, "you don't have to be anymore." He knelt, gently took the child and placed her on the warm bed. Sarah Hulley followed quietly. They all sat close, sharing the small space. Lyra, now braver than before, reached for Jack's hand and held it. She didn't speak, but she didn't need to. Sarali whispered, "You're her safe place now." Jack looked at her. "And what about you?" She blinked, surprised, then slowly said, "I don't know when it happened, but I feel safe with you too." The next day brought silence, but not peace. Drogash had vanished after the investigation. No threats, no appearances. That, Jack thought, was the most dangerous part. Late in the afternoon, a package arrived, left outside their door. No sender. Inside, and a broken doll's head stained with black dust, a message carved into the side. "Not your family, not for long." Sarah Hulley dropped the box in shock. Jack's face hardened. "They're trying to scare us," he said. "And it's working," she whispered. "No," Jack replied. "They want me to be afraid, but I won't be." That night, Jack reinforced the door and charged backup power. He kept a tool rod near his bed. As Sarali laid Lyra to sleep, she looked at him, afraid. "Why do they hate this bond so much?" she asked. "Because it breaks their rules," Jack said. "Because it proves kindness doesn't care about species." Sarali sat beside him on the edge of the bed. "Do you ever wish you said no?" she asked. Jack looked at her, straight in the eyes. "No," he answered. "Never." She didn't move away. Instead, she leaned gently against his shoulder. "I thought this was pretend," she said. "But it doesn't feel like pretend anymore." Jack smiled. "That's what scares them the most." In the early morning, just before sunrise, a loud crash woke them. Bang! The door shook. Someone was trying to force their way in. Jack jumped to his feet, grabbing the tool rod. Sarah Hulley pulled Lyra close and backed into the corner. "Stay behind. Me," Jack said. The door burst open. 3 masked aliens rushed in, one with a metal rod, the others with stun knives. Jack didn't wait. He swung hard, striking the first attacker in the side. The alien fell, gasping. The second lunged. But Sarali threw a cooking pot, hitting his arm. Jack blocked the knife with his rod, twisting it away. He kicked the attacker down. The third one turned to grab Sarali. Jack roared and tackled him, slamming him against the wall. The fight ended quickly, but left bruises, blood, and broken furniture behind. The attackers ran, limping into the night. Jack stood in the doorway, chest rising and falling. "You okay?" he asked, breathless. Sarali nodded. "We're okay." Lyra ran to Jack and hugged him tightly, her small hands shaking. Minutes later, colony guards arrived. They took reports, asked questions, promised protection. But Jack knew. Drogash would try again. Still, something had changed. Sarah Hulley walked up to Jack and touched his arm gently. "You didn't have to fight like that," she said. "I did," he answered. "Because you're mine now." Her eyes welled with tears. "Even if the law ends tomorrow? Even if the stars fall from the sky?" She stepped closer, pressed her forehead to his. Her people's way of sharing trust, love, and soul. Jack closed his eyes and let her stay there. No words, no law, just feeling. Later, when the colony lights returned and repairs were done, they sat together outside the home watching the sky. "Do you think they'll ever leave us alone?" Sarali asked. "No," Jack said. "But we won't need their approval." He looked at her. "This started as survival, but it turned into something else." She nodded. "Something real." Lyra climbed into her mother's lap, holding the repaired doll again. Jack wrapped a blanket around all 3 of them. Then let them watch, he said. Let them see what love looks like when no one gives up.